I never thought there was anything unusual about my phone number. It was just a random number I had been using for years. Nothing special about it. My life was quiet and predictable until one rainy night when I received a call from an unknown number. When I answered, all I heard was static before a frightened woman whispered, "Please help me." Before I could ask who she was, the call suddenly disconnected. I tried calling back, but the number no longer existed. The fear in her voice stayed with me long after the call ended. The next day, curiosity got the better of me. I searched the number online and discovered something disturbing. The number belonged to a woman named Rachel Monroe, who had disappeared 2 years earlier. Rachel's case was unsolved. Her car had been found abandoned near a forest road, but there was no sign of her. The same number that had called me the previous night was listed in her missing person report. I convinced myself it was some strange coincidence, but deep down, I knew something wasn't right. The following night, my phone rang again at exactly 2:13 a.m. This time, a man spoke through heavy static. His voice was shaky and desperate. "Don't let them find you," he warned before the line went dead. The call terrified me. I started researching more missing person cases and quickly discovered that Rachel was not the only one connected to the number. In case after case, from different states and different years, the exact same phone number appeared in police files and witness statements. What made the discovery even more frightening was that some of the cases dated back to the late 1990s, years before my phone number should have even existed. There were teenagers, teachers, truck drivers, and college students who had all disappeared without a trace. Every single one somehow had a connection to my number. The pattern was impossible to explain. I felt as if I had uncovered something that was never meant to be found. Another call came a few nights later. This time it was a woman whispering through static. "They know you're looking," she said. I asked who she was talking about, but she ignored the question. Instead, she delivered a chilling warning. "Your name is next." Before I could say another word, the call ended. When I replayed the recording later, I heard faint sounds hidden beneath the static, metal doors slamming, distant footsteps, and what sounded like someone screaming far away. Determined to find answers, I traveled to Wyoming and met Rachel Monroe's sister. At first, she didn't believe my story, but when I showed her the call logs, her face turned pale. She listened to the recording and immediately recognized the voice. "That's Rachel," she whispered. Then she showed me an old photograph of Rachel standing beside 3 friends. Every person in the photo had disappeared over the years. Rachel's sister explained that all of them had received strange phone calls before they vanished. She revealed something even more unsettling. Before Rachel disappeared, she became obsessed with writing a particular phone number everywhere she went. She wrote it in notebooks, on receipts, on sticky notes, and even on walls. The number she kept writing was mine. Hearing that felt impossible. Rachel vanished years before I ever owned the number, yet somehow she knew it. I left Wyoming with more questions than answers and a growing feeling that someone was watching me. A few nights later, I received a mysterious text message that simply said, "Check the storage unit." I didn't own a storage unit, but after searching public records, I discovered one had been rented under my name years earlier. The lease contained my personal information, my driver's license number, and even a signature that looked exactly like mine. Yet I had never seen it before. Terrified but desperate for answers, I drove to the facility. When the storage unit door rolled open, I felt my blood run cold. Thousands of photographs covered the walls. Every picture showed a missing person. Names, dates, locations, and handwritten notes surrounded the images. At the center of the room sat a desk with a notebook resting on top. Every page was filled with my phone number written over and over again. Then I reached the final page and nearly collapsed. There was a recent photograph of me. Under it were the words, "Subject identified, recovery phase pending." I grabbed the notebook and fled the storage facility. Federal investigators eventually became involved after seeing the evidence. They searched through decades of missing person reports and discovered a horrifying pattern. Every victim had reported receiving strange phone calls shortly before disappearing. The calls always originated from the same phone number, mine. Somehow the number appeared in records that stretched back decades. Experts, detectives, and telecommunications companies all failed to explain how it was possible. Months passed while investigators searched for answers. They uncovered journals left behind by several victims. Every journal contained pages filled with the same number written repeatedly. Some victims described hearing voices on the phone. Others reported feeling watched. Despite the overwhelming evidence, investigators could never identify who was behind the disappearances. Eventually, the case stalled and public interest faded. Officially, nothing was solved. I tried to return to a normal life, but the calls eventually resumed. One winter night I answered and immediately recognized Rachel's voice. She sounded weak and distant. "They aren't people," she whispered. Before I could ask what she meant, another voice interrupted. It was deep, distorted, and unlike anything I had ever heard before. "You were never supposed to answer," it said. The line disconnected, leaving me frozen with fear. Moments later, text messages began arriving. Each one contained photographs of my apartment building, then photos of my window, then a photograph of me sitting inside my apartment holding my phone. The images had been taken only seconds before they were sent. I rushed to the window, but nobody was outside. Another message appeared. "This is how it begins." Police searched the area but found no evidence that anyone had been watching me. Terrified, I packed my belongings and left town. I traveled from city to city, constantly moving, hoping to escape whoever or whatever was following me. Yet the messages never stopped. No matter where I went, new photographs appeared showing me in gas stations, restaurants, hotels, and parking lots. Eventually, I realized the tracking might somehow be connected to my phone, so I destroyed it completely. For a short time, the messages stopped. Then one night, a hotel room telephone rang. When I answered, a familiar voice whispered, "Numbers don't belong to phones." The line went dead. As I sat there in shock, I noticed something carved into the desk beside the bed. It was my phone number. Then I saw it again on the bathroom mirror, and again beneath the television. The same number seemed to be everywhere I looked. Years have passed since then, and the mystery remains unsolved. Recently, I came across a new missing person case online. The victim's apartment photos had been released to the public. Written repeatedly across the walls was my phone number. Yesterday, my phone rang once more. When I answered, hundreds of voices whispered together, "We found your replacement." This morning, I discovered a new contact saved in my phone, a stranger's number I had never entered. Hours later, I learned that the owner of that number had just been reported missing. And that's when I realized the nightmare had never ended. It had simply moved on to its next victim.